All right, we are moving into another collective energetic theme as of May 9th. And I have lots of notes down here. So if you see my eyes going up and down, it's that I'm wanting to make sure I speak to specific aspects of this energy because I think there's a great opportunity for a lot of us to live into a different story around what matters and around how we express ourselves in the world. And if you've followed me for any amount of time, you know that I really believe in embodied leadership as new paradigm leadership. So it's not so much what we think, it's not what we do, it's the holistic sense of how we move through life, how we engage, and who we be. And we have a real opportunity in this waypoint cycle, chapter, whatever we want to call it, to deepen that form of embodied leadership. We live in a culture that really, for a long time, has prioritized the mind. It has prioritized the mind as a form of control and, in many ways, oppression. You know, how many times has your mind talked you out of what your gut or your inner wisdom knew to be right and true? And culture has really affirmed this. You know, it's certainty has been prioritized, mental control, right? Like, I know this, so you need to do this, even in relational engagement that has made things mucky around what is most true and what is most authentically aligned. So the themes, if it's the TLDR or whatever the listen version of that is, there are sort of tension points. I see things very visually. So, like the continuum, where are we at a given moment, at a given chapter of life with these themes? So, we've got complexity and surrender, suppression and expression, fear and emergent presence, like wise presence, and intention and commitment and things like that, and playfulness. So, as I have said those different sort of points, those continuum points where we are having an invitation to see where we land, just maybe even pause this and ask yourself where you feel like you are with those. You know, how complex and overwhelming does life feel versus how much have you refined the clutter, internal and external, to get to the root of what matters, the core of what is true. There's things like that, as well as the other words that I said. So complexity is, to me, there's a paradox here. We as beings are inherently complex through our uniqueness. You know, as somebody who works with human design and who works with somatics, looking at the body or looking at someone's human design chart will show you just how many things are going on at a given time with someone. How all these different sort of disco ball facets are engaging with life and reflecting in it and interacting. So there is a truth to the complexity of things. You know, even if we look at nature, there's a complexity. There's all these different organisms, all these different beings, all these different creatures and critters. So that is true. And there's a layer of that is in my view deeply cultural, as I mentioned before, where there's almost like this badge of honor for being overwhelmed by the complexity of life and trying to tame it, wrangle it, figure it out, label it. There's a that. And and this theme is going to likely be showing up for a lot of people. Like, where am I identified with complexity? Where are patterns around me trying to control and tame the complexity of life through my mind or through my expression. Where might that be showing up in my life? Or where might I be observing that showing up in the way others interact or lead their meetings or teams or things like that? Because when we're talking about the energy of control, something I've said for a long time is control is different than personal power. Control is very different from agency. Control has, like, I see it almost like a root system. Its roots are always in fear. Control doesn't trust. Control thinks, I have to be the one that knows and forces an agenda so that I'm safe, I have security, I look good, I maintain my identity that I've found safety in. And there's nothing wrong with that because literally our neurology every day is trying to control life. So there's no shame in that, but there's a real sort of flex when we create a more supple, trusting relationship with what matters. So if you're trying to control something, there's likely a sort of like a side of complex something, like it feels so hard. It feels so overwhelming. There's just too much to do. There might be some of that around the things that are rooted in fear-based control. And agency, I talk a lot about control versus agency. Agency has a naturally sort of emergent quality to it. It's less grippy, it's less rigid. Agency has eyes wide open to sort of the context and the landscape and is anchored in what is mine to do and be right now. And it's changeable. It's flexible with life. So there's that theme that may be coming up. And if you notice that you're trying to control something or that you're trying to make something hard, I say this because I have decades of practice of identifying with life being hard and complex and me needing to get in there and figure it out. So truly no judgment. And the more that my life path has evolved, my life gets more and more simple. My expression gets more and more clear. I have less grippy, fear-based responses and reactions to life and more what I often call open-palmed movement. Like I'm going to do my part, but I'm also not going to grip. So using the mind to create security. And again, that can be a totally internal process. It can be ruminating. It can be suppressing the truth, like at work, let's say, or in a core relationship, and then just spinning it in the head, trying to sort it out, trying to make sense, trying to control, trying to label, trying to all those things. So this is where I think nervous system regulation is really essential because when we're in those mental loops, we are not at choice. When our nervous system is in a fear response, we are in reactivity. And so learning how to create enough regulation internally to pause that cycle, to create a breath in between those likely very familiar thoughts or feelings gives access to greater agency and to more simple clarity. So, whatever your favorite tool is, it could literally be taking 5 breaths, deep in through the nose, and then exhaling for at least 2 counts more through the mouth. And I find it can be really helpful if you hold your mouth like you're drinking through a straw. It naturally lets the air go out more slowly. And that's a very quick and easy way to give the body the sign that it's moving towards safety and get out of that sort of mental racetrack. So some of the ways that this may show up, this pattern, is we're talking a lot about expression. And I noted this, but I want to go deeper, that there's sort of a repressed version and a reactive or more expressed version that both can get out of balance. It's, there again, this is a very continuum conversation. Those are on the continuum. And then that sort of emergent, right-timed expression of truth is somewhere in the middle-ish. So the reactive or the repressive side is keeping the self, the truth, silenced. Or this may come out in people trying to keep others sort of repressed in their expression, to maintain a sense of control, even if it's just the surface, because often that's the way it is, right? We are people who have a variety of experiences and perspectives, and there are many environments where it doesn't feel safe to express what's real and true. And so finding the curiosity in, rather than just following the default mode, just getting curious, where am I holding back? Where am I, the other side is the reactive. So where am I filling space just to fill space? Where am I speaking in theory and what I know as an attempt to exert control on an environment, or to control how I'm seen, or to attempt to feel a sense of, um, sometimes it can even be like, see me so that I know that I matter, kind of an energy when there's just this constant stream of expression. So if the dial is turned too far down and nothing is being expressed, there's a tension in holding all of that down. But if it's like overly expressed, there's not intention with that expression. And the unintended impact is that people tune those kinds of folks out when they're in that mode, because it's just too much. And we feel the energy beneath both of these things. I think about, in my leadership training I did years ago, I tried to sort of repress when things would get chaotic in the group experiences, or when there would be an emotional charge. I would pull back and literally sometimes sit towards the edge of the room if I could, to get out of it. And people would look over and say, I'm curious, Meghan, what's going on with you? What are you doing? So even if you're repressing or pushing down what is real and true, that is likely still felt in the energy that you are carrying. So a lot of times we don't get the privilege of hiding. It's just as loud as what we think of as being loud. They're both very, very felt. And it's important to acknowledge that, so that we can take responsibility for the energy we bring into spaces. We don't get to do this perfectly, but when we realize that expression is not just verbal, it is not just action, it is our being, there's greater access to our leadership. Like, we can be mindful of what we're contributing, and we can be responsible when we need to be, for when our humanity gets a little messy in a space. And that creates greater safety and security in the ecosystem, in the felt sense. So, a way to work with this that might be surprising, something I've seen and done in my own life and worked with clients for years, is ritual moves energy and intention. That's why cultures have used it for ages and ages and ages, because we think that if we've got a problem, we have to attack that problem head on, right as it is. But often that is not the most effective strategy. When we work with the energetic theme, it's sort of like a diffuser that starts to shift and support all of the different areas where that theme is present in our lives. So simplicity is being asked of us right now, one might say, in this sort of transit, this energy that's moving through the collective, inviting us to grow and heal and integrate and become. And so on a practical level, working with your environment to declutter. So we are affected by our environment. And often our environment is a reflection of what's going on inside. So when I've got a big creative project going on, or I've got a more full schedule than I'm used to or ideally want, my environment will start to look a bit more cluttered. My environment matters to me. I deeply feel my environment on a, emotional, energetic level. So I'll start to see more sticky notes. I'll see books and stacks. It gets cluttered, and that's a reflection of what's going on inside. I've got multiple tabs open in my brain, and it sort of is reflected. So a way to shift that pattern energetically is to, instead of trying to unpack all the stories and perspectives and emotions that are going on, which sometimes we really need to do, but if that feels overwhelming, like it's adding complexity to an already overwhelming experience or season of life, then it's okay to let it be practical. And it can be like, okay, where in my home feels most cluttered? Or where does it just kind of make me feel a little itchy, that it just is nagging me, that this corner of my living room or my junk drawer, every time I try and close it, something gets caught in the drawer. Or I have laundry on the end of my bed. I don't know what it is, but pick one thing that feels overwhelming, too much, too complex, that you're seeing regularly, and set a timer for 10 minutes, let's say, and just focus on clearing that complexity, that clutter from your world. It doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't have to be perfect, but moving in the direction of decluttering will create a felt sense in your body that then will naturally lead to more clarity, more spaciousness. Because the goal, if there is to be a goal, working with this energetic theme, this waypoint, is to create enough space so that we can know what is true, so that the truth becomes simple, rooted knowing, rather than something we're trying to figure out and force and find. It's like, if we just create enough space, literally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, whatever it is for you, there's an emergent quality. We know when to express. We know when to be quiet and listen. We know when to move on a thing. We know when to pull back and be curious. And this transit, this energy is helping us refine that within ourselves. That's part of why I think it's so cool that these waypoints, we sort of visit each of them like a bus stop. Every year, we have an opportunity to go through the theme again as the person we have become. And each one is here to support us. Even though some of the lessons and the clarity can feel inconvenient, not fun, confronting, they are here to invite us, our environment, this archetypal wisdom that lives in the spaces in between our very practical human experience. It's like an invisible guiding hand to help us go through what I lovingly call soul school, right? There's like a lesson in the course that comes roughly every week, and it's for us, even when it's not fun. So declutter, work with your physical environment if the emotional or social feels overwhelming, and then take a breath when you need it. Take maybe 5, 10, do whatever your nervous system regulation practice is so that you can create space to know what you know and hear yourself in the midst of the chaos and clutter of the world around you.